Hello, everyone. Welcome. Earlier tonight, we opened the meeting for council to discuss a non-planning matter, and we'll now have the public planning meeting part of our agenda. So could I please have a mover and a seconder that the special council meeting reconvene at 6:30 p.m. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Drodge and Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. So I'd like to advise you that this portion of the meeting is being live streamed, audio and video recorded, and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about the collection, please contact the clerk's services. So I'd like to thank everyone who is here this evening and also those who are watching online. Thank you for being with us. And also advise, if you do have your phone with you, if you could please put it on vibrate or silent just so it doesn't interrupt our proceedings, that would be much appreciated. We have two planning applications that are being brought forward this evening. The first item is being recommended for council consideration this evening, and the second item is for information and public consultation purposes only, and no decision will be made this evening. I will now ask Councillor Kevin Ices to provide our land acknowledgement statement.
The town of Innisfil acknowledges that Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Nashwawa peoples of Beausoleil First Nations, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Now I'll ask members of council if there's any disclosures of interest, conflict or pecuniary interest on tonight's agenda on the two items. Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you during the meeting, please let it be known at that time. The first application being brought forward tonight concerns a proposed amendment to the town's community planning permitting system, also known as the CPPS. Our Shore Bylaw 062-17. This application is being recommended for council's consideration tonight. But of course, if there's concerns between members of council or members of the public, we don't need to bring that forward for consideration tonight. We can have it come back at a later date once those concerns have been addressed. We will start with presentations from staff, and then the applicant will be invited to speak on behalf of the application. Council may have a few questions or comments, and then we will have an opportunity for a public consultation where we will hear from members of the public. All speakers will have 5 minutes to ask your questions or express your concerns, and then staff or the applicant will respond where possible. If staff or the applicant are not able to respond to your questions this evening, all of those questions will be responded to in the staff report that comes back to council for the night that decision will be debated by council. If you're not able to get everything you want to say in your first 5 minutes, you can speak a second time once everyone has had one opportunity. Then you'll be given an additional 5 minutes. After all members of the public have provided comments, council will consider the recommendation. Should any significant concerns be identified, council may decide to receive the item for information purposes and make a decision at a later date. We'll now hear from the clerk, Patty Toma, on how public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Your Worship. In accordance with Section 1.4.4 and 2.1.4 of the CPPS bylaw, notice for this public meeting was provided by placement of signs on the street and lake frontages of the property on October 9th, 2024. Information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page.
Thank you. Has any correspondence been received by the clerk's office concerning this item?
Thank you, Your Worship, and no correspondence has been received by the clerk's office. As well, members of the public may also provide comments or register their interest regarding this item during the meeting or until council makes a decision by contacting the clerk's office via email while this meeting is in progress, or should council just receive the item, they can contact the clerk's office after.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now hear from Kirsten Morris, Senior Planner, who will provide a high-level summary of the application.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider a proposed amendment to the Community Planning Permit System, or CPPS bylaw, for lands municipally known as 923 Adams Road. So the purpose of the application is to amend the town's CPPS bylaw 062-17 to facilitate a 270.67 meters squared two-story addition onto an existing one-story dwelling on the subject lands. The application proposes to amend section 4.17.2 of the CPPS bylaw to permit an increase in ground floor area of the existing dwelling by 198%, where the bylaw permits a maximum percentage increase in ground floor area of 50%. The application also proposes to amend section 5.1.2a of the CPPS bylaw to permit a decreased interior side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.23 meters on the north side of the dwelling and to 1.22 meters on the south side of the dwelling. The subject lands are located within the primary settlement area of Alcona, with a lot area of approximately 677 meters squared and a lot frontage of approximately 13.58 meters on Adams Road. Surrounding lands are generally residential in nature. So here's a proposed site plan of the addition. The addition is being constructed in front of the existing dwelling, so on the left side of the screen, and contains similar side yard setbacks to the existing dwelling on the north side. The proposed side yard setbacks are also similar to adjacent dwellings to the north and south. This is the front elevation of the proposed dwelling addition, which shows the proposed height of 7.68 meters, which is within the permitted 8 meter standard height of the bylaw. These are the side elevations. On the top photo, the addition is on the right and the bottom addition is on the left. You can see that there's privacy fencing on the upper story balconies, which assists in reducing privacy and overlook impacts on the neighboring properties to the north. New plantings are also proposed in both side yards to provide a natural buffer between the new dwelling and neighboring lots in relation to those reduced setbacks proposed. Staff have reviewed the application against the evaluation criteria required by section 1.9 and 2.14 of the CPPS bylaw for a CPPS bylaw amendment and have determined that the proposal meets these criteria as detailed in the staff report on the agenda, DSR-142-24. And the criteria evaluated are included on this side, which include that the proposal is appropriate for the lands. It accounts for the unique characteristics of the property. Potential off-site impacts are identified and mitigated. The proposal maintains the general intent of the bylaw and maintains the general intent of the town's official plan. The proposal is consistent with provincial plans and policies, including the PPS and the LS Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. And public engagement is also required for a CPPS bylaw amendment, which is the reason for this public meeting. For comments received, we did receive neighbor support letters from both adjacent neighbors and the neighbor across the street, as well as 2 other neighbors on the street. This table summarizes the proposed amendments. So the minimum side yard setback standard for dwellings within a settlement area is 3 meters. Staff can consider a reduction up to 1.5 meters through a Class 2 variation. However, anything less than 1.5 meters requires a CPPS bylaw amendment. And as noted, the applicant is proposing 1.23 meters and 1.22 meters. In addition, any expansion to an existing legal non-complying dwelling requires a Class 2 planning permit. Staff can consider an increase in ground floor area of an existing dwelling up to 50%, and the application is proposing an increase in ground floor area of 198%, which is subject to an amendment. So staff are recommending council approve the bylaw amendment this evening if there are no objections from council or the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll now hear from Carlos Dalmeo, the property owner, who will provide further context to the application. Welcome, Mr. Dalmeo.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Dalmeo. I'm the owner of the property.
Mr. Dalmeo, could I ask if you could just speak a little closer to the mic because there's people watching at home and we want to make sure they can hear you. Yeah, you kind of have to.
Okay, we'll just hold it up.
Okay.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. My name is Carlos Dalmeo, and I'm the property owner of 923 Adams Road. This evening, I brought along my daughter, Chelsea Dalmeo, and my son, which is back here, Adrian Dalmeo. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to begin the presentation. Here I'm representing Mr. Carlos Dalmeo and Mrs. Catalina Dalmeo, the owners of the property of 923 Adams Road, and they have contracted Synthesis Home Inc. for the design and construction of a two-story home to the already existing bungalow. Oh, sorry, that was instruction. This is the next slide, site description. 923 Adams Road pertains to the lands of the shoreline permit area designation of the town of Innisfil, and the lot is fronting the street at the west side and faces Limb Simcoe on the east side, while on the north side and on the south sides are residential areas. For the proposal, this amendment includes the CPPS bylaw 026-17, that is a decreased interior side yard setback of 1.23 meters and 1.22 meters north and south side respectively, as well as a ground floor increase. And 923 Adams Road currently has an existing bungalow, and the proposal is to create a larger residential living space, which will allow comfortable accommodation for the owner's family, and the approach during this design stage was to keep the existing bungalow and to create additional living space. The analysis here proposed for 923 Adams Road is designed with the intention to blend in with the surroundings with its mass, position on the lot, height, and style. Some of the variances shown in the previous slide are a result from the existing conditions on the lot, while some variances are similar to the ones present on the lots in the immediate surrounding. The proposed side setbacks for the new part of the house are 1.2 and 1.22 meters, respectively, north and south side. The front lot frontage is 13.58 meters, which is more narrow than the adjacent lots on the street. So the proposed reduction of the interior side yard setbacks are due to the narrow width of the lot and are comparable to the side yard setbacks of the existing dwellings on the adjacent lots. And the proposed coverage encompassing the existing and the new part of the house is 38.99. Again, since the lot is also smaller in the area than the adjacent lots on the streets, this results in an increased proposed lot coverage. So during the course of design, the intention was to propose extension of the house to the front of the property, leaving the rear area of the lot already occupied with the bungalow without any side extensions. In this way, the amount of open landscape area close to the lake remains unchanged. And the supporting documents that we received on the next slide, as you will see, begin with the planning justification report and ends with the letters of support. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say, Ms. Dalmeo, are you a professional planner? Because you sure sound like one.
Oh, no. No, I'm not.
Well, if you ever decide you want to change a career, I'm sure, because that was very well done.
Oh, thank you
Very
so
well
much.
done.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. You're asking for literally 4 feet between the property line and the home. Is there any plans to put up a fence or anything along those lines in the future with regards to the neighbor due to the limited access to the backyard?
No, right now on the plans, we want to keep it as green as possible. So we have trees in the landscape design being planted. And then on the other side, it's just our regular grass as well as the privacy panels on the side of the decks.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. First question I have is to do, it says in the write-up that, it's non-complying, which means that the existing building is too close to the shoreline. But it says here that the shoreline buffer area will be expanded and enhanced with native plants. So I'm just kind of curious, how is it being expanded? I understand enhanced, but expanded, that suggests that they're going to be moving infrastructure or something to comply with the existing bylaw.
Ms. Morris?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So currently, as you've noted, the existing house is non-complying with the waterfront yard setback, and the shoreline buffer area is required by the bylaw to be naturalized, up to 75% naturalization. So that's between the existing dwelling and the water. So currently, there is no natural vegetation between the water's edge and the existing dwelling. So through this permit process, they will be required to come more into compliance with the bylaw and enhance the shoreline buffer area up to the new addition, so farther away from what is currently existing.
Thank you. Another question. In the process of the application, if the existing building is non-complying, why would we have not requested that the existing building be torn down and brought into compliance with the new build?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So I think we evaluated what was brought forth to us. The bylaw does permit minor expansions of legal non-complying structures. And in this case, the amendment, I think, fits in with the character of the area, and side yard setbacks are similar to what is existing on adjacent lots. So we could have asked for the dwelling to be removed, but that was not what was brought forth to us. So we evaluated based on the criteria of the CPPS bylaw.
Councillor Waters?
The operative word you used there was minor, and this is 198% larger. That doesn't sound like it's minor to me, so I'm still questioning why we didn't ask that existing building to be torn down. That would have brought the building into compliance because it would have given a much better front yard to that building.
Through the mayor, yes, I believe we just evaluated what's brought forth to us, the application. When I said that the bylaw permits minor expansions, I meant that the standard is a minor expansion of 50% ground floor area increase. Anything over that, it requires an amendment and to be evaluated against the criteria for considering amendments to the CPPS bylaw, and we believe that the expansion does meet those criteria.
Thank you.
Other questions? I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So this is a fairly unique area in the town of Innisfil. So the land, the actual shoreline is owned by the Alcona Beach Club or Association, I'm not sure of the name. And so like all of these that look like they are on the water, they don't actually own the waterfront, they own to that lot line. And I do know that this particular home did experience some flooding when we had a I think it was a hydrant malfunction up on Maple or St. John's, whatever on top of the hill. So is there going to have to be fill brought in to bring this property up to grade?
That I'm not quite aware of, Madam Mayor. I wonder Mr. Dalmau?
So are you going to have to require to bring fill in? I guess if it's an existing dwelling,
Yes.
you're not going to be able to bring fill in around it.
No.
What's your plan for the grade there?
So right now, what we have planned is the grade, we got an evaluation from the surveyors, and they have to go in and regrade everything. And so I'm not sure, I think when Ms. Morris was going through her slides, you could see that there's actually is an increase in the new proposed house. And so the reason for that is because we are getting so much drainage and just getting flooded. And if I may, I can also address a little bit of Mr. Waters's question pertaining to why wasn't the existing bungalow just tore down. I believe in the very first just going back and forth of ideas of even tearing that down and building something new. I believe it was more of a disruption to the frontage of the lake. And so we were more concerned about the vegetation and everything there. So they said, just please leave it and not to just further do anything worse with it. And again, so what we did was worked around it. And because only one dwelling can be there per lot, what we did was, again, just design something that could be attached to what is already there.
Councillor Waters?
Councillor, question to our staff. With this build, does the existing building, can it be renovated at a later stage? Can they basically tear down 2/3 of it and then rebuild it? Or does it have to stay the way it is?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it could be rebuilt in the same location, same dimensions with a Class 2 planning permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And my last comment would be, I think it was very proactive for you to go to your neighbors and the neighbors on each side and the one across the street who I thought might be concerned about their view. So I think that was very proactive to go and get their comments and the fact that they approved of the design prior to coming here tonight. Any other questions for comments? Seeing none. Then we will hear from the members of the public who are interested in any questions or comments. If we could ask you to please take your seats, and then people from the floor can come up and make their questions and comments. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we'll hear from members of the public who have questions regarding this item. I understand, Ms. Thoma, that nobody has registered to speak. Nobody online?
Thank you, Your Worship. That's correct.
Okay, so I will call on those in attendance here at Town Hall to come forward to the podium and state your name for the record, please. Seeing none, I will call one more time. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment or ask a question on this application? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk if any emails have been received during this meeting from people watching online.
Thank you, Your Worship. No correspondence or emails have come in since this meeting commenced.
Thank you. We'll now go to the recommendation to consider this application. So since we did have no concerns from members of the public, is council comfortable going ahead with the approval this evening? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Fowler, Councillor Constantine. Questions or comments on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Anyone who wishes to provide comment regarding this application, well, no, I guess I won't be reading that part because it's passed. So congratulations, that's been approved, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from members of staff in the near future. We'll now move to the second item on tonight's agenda, which is being presented for information and public consultation purposes only. So unlike the first one, no decisions will be made this evening. It concerns proposed amendments to the Town of Innisfil's official plan and zoning bylaw and a draft plan of subdivision for 881 Hoffland Street. We'll start with presentation from the staff, and then the consultant on behalf of the applicant will be invited to speak on behalf of the application. Council may have a few questions or comments, and then we will have an opportunity for public consultation where we'll hear from members of the public. And you heard me before about the 5 minutes for your first round until everybody's had a turn, and then if you have more to say, you may come up a second time. Should any member of the public watching from the live stream wish to comment, they can email Clerk Services, and these comments will be provided to Council and Town staff and taken into consideration before Council makes a final decision. You may also be added to the circulation list as an interested party and will be updated on any future information regarding this item, including when it's to come back to Council for debate and decision. The email will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is also available on tonight's agenda. Was there a sign-up sheet out front tonight, Ms. Toma, as well, for people who wanted to be considered to be on the mailing list?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there's a sign-up sheet at the front door, and any person is still able to sign up prior to leaving the building or contacting the clerk's office.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Clerk Toma on how public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on October 10, 2024, and the notice was also circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on October 10, 2024, in accordance with the Planning Act. Corresponding signage was posted on the property on October 9, 2024, and information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the Town's Get Involved page.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Has any correspondence been received by the clerk's office concerning this item?
Thank you, Your Worship, and no correspondence has been received by the clerk's office regarding this application. As well, Your Worship, members of the public may provide comment or register their interest regarding this item during this meeting or up until Council makes the decision by contacting the clerk's office.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Kirsten Morris, Senior Planner, who will provide a high-level summary of the application. Ms. Morris.
Thank you. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of Council, staff, members of the public, the purpose of this public meeting is to consider applications for a proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate a red line revision to a draft plan of subdivision at 881 Hoffland Street. The purpose of the applications is to revise a draft approved plan of subdivision that requires official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to convert 9 draft approved single detached lots at the eastern portion of the subject lands to 25 townhouse dwelling units for a total of 81 townhouse units on the lands. The proposed official plan amendment would redesignate the lands to a site-specific residential medium-density designation to permit the additional townhouse units, increase the permitted density to 28 units per net hectare, and remove a site-specific policy that requires 21-meter-wide rear yards and a policy requiring accommodation of accessory dwelling units within 25% of new residential housing. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the portion of the subject lands containing the proposed additional townhouse units to a site-specific residential townhouse exception zone with a hold. So the subject lands are located within the settlement area of Lefroy and are approximately 2.97 hectares in area with frontage on Hoffland Street. The lands are located south of Killarney Beach Road and west of Church Drive, as shown on the key map here. Here's an image of the proposed draft plan of subdivision. The area of the land that is subject to the proposed changes are the proposed lots at the eastern boundary of the lands that abut the existing lots on Church Drive. The application will be reviewed by staff for consistency and conformity with applicable provincial, county, and town policies as listed on this slide. The relevant planning policies that will be reviewed by staff are detailed in staff report DSR-143-24 and include policies of the provincial planning statement, the Simcoe County official plan, the Innisfil official plan, the Lake Simcoe protection plan, and the town's zoning bylaw. Agency comments received. So we've received comments from Hiawatha First Nation, who have indicated no comments or concerns. Bell Canada have provided their standard draft plan conditions. Canada Post have indicated that mail service will be provided by centralized delivery service via community mailboxes or PO box pickup, and their standard draft plan conditions were provided. Hydro One had no comments. Metrolinx indicated that an easement and warning clause would be required as their standard draft plan conditions. Alderville First Nation are requesting further consultation. Huron-Wendat First Nation are requesting more information regarding archaeological assessment requirements. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority have indicated that their comments have been addressed through previous applications. We also received comments from the county and In-Services today, and the county provided their waste collection standards, and In-Services has provided technical comments in regards to servicing in the functional servicing report. In summary, the applications propose to replace 9 draft-approved single-detached lots on the eastern boundary of the lands with 25 townhouse units. The proposed change requires an official plan amendment to increase the permitted density, permit the townhouse units, and remove a site-specific policy that requires 21-meter wide rear yards, and a policy that requires accommodation of accessory dwelling units in 25% of new residential units. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment includes site-specific provisions to facilitate the proposal, as outlined in the staff report on the agenda. The proposed increase in units results in an overall density of approximately 27.3 units per net hectare, where 25 units per net hectare is currently permitted by the official plan policies in place. And finally, as noted in the staff report, staff do have concerns with the proposed townhouse lot incompatibility with existing lots on Church Drive, including the request for the removal of site-specific policy 10.2.14, which requires 21-meter wide rear yards, and are reviewing the applications in that regard. So in terms of next steps, staff will review and consider all public, council, department, and agency comments and report back to council on a recommendation at a future meeting. Notice will be provided to all who requested notification or submitted written correspondence. If the official plan amendment is adopted by council and approved by the County of Simcoe, and the zoning amendment is approved by council, staff are delegated to approve the draft plan of subdivision along with consolidated draft plan conditions. And then finally, part lot control exemption will also be required to facilitate the townhouse units. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. We'll now hear from Keith McKinnon from KLM Planning on behalf of the applicant, who will provide further planning context to the application. We have to get that fixed.
I think so, yes. Good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, members of the public. My name is Keith McKinnon. I'm a partner with KLM Planning Partners, Inc. Here before you on behalf of 272-3773 Ontario Limited, as it relates to 881 and 883 Hoffland Street. There we go. So as Ms. Morris already outlined, and I'm certainly not going to repeat what Ms. Morris has already gone through, so just really quick overview. Location is identified in the red line with the hatching. We've got approximately 15 meters of frontage on existing Hoffland Street. We have significantly more frontage on McMaster, which that portion is not yet fully built, as you know, when you drive by through Lefroy. Certainly well within walking distance of existing schools and parks, the Morgan Russell Memorial Arena and the community center. So as noted, and I guess as outlined, and maybe just by way of, brief background. So if you may recall, we were here, some time ago. We filed our applications for this land back in the late part of 2021. Ultimately, it was approved by council in June of 2023. So a year and a half later, we ultimately had an approval. As noted, it was for a total of 65 units. Of those 65 units, 9 of which were single detached dwellings. Those 9 single detached dwellings were along the easterly edge, adjacent to the rear yards of those units that front directly onto Church Drive today. Certainly a lot has happened in not only the economic world, but also in the planning world. As you certainly well know, we've had a significant number of changes to the Planning Act. We now have a new provincial planning statement, which took away the old growth plan and removed the old provincial policy statement. So the whole groundwork effectively for the planning world has significantly changed within that time period. So when Council approved that amendment back in June of 2023, it was Amendment number 10. That was ultimately, again, approved by Simcoe County. It was designating the property as residential low density 2. So within that residential low density 2, it allows you to have townhouses and single detached dwellings up to a maximum of 25 units per hectare. Based on the proposed change that we are looking to incorporate, in addition to the official plan amendment, we have a zoning bylaw amendment that effectively does the same thing. So as you can see, the straight hatching along the easterly edge of the property, this also formed part of the amendment that was approved by Council back in June of 2023. And what that did is put it into a residential townhouse exception zone for the westerly portion, which is the cross-hatching, and the easterly portion in a residential 1 hold zone. And then the open space identifies the little triangular piece that you see at the southwest corner, which is the portion of the park that is going to be amalgamated with the LCME P4 draft plan when that park ultimately comes forth. So as part of the amendment that we have applied for in the official plan realm, the request is to take what you can see there in the black outline is to take that from the low density residential portion and put that into the residential townhouse density. What that ultimately does is allows us to go from a maximum of 25 units per hectare to a maximum that's greater. We're obviously only asking for 28. It's 27.3, but it depends on which portion of the report you see. You'll see 27.3 or 28 units per hectare. And that would allow for what you see there is about 6 blocks of townhouses along that edge with the same lot frontage as those that are already permitted in the balance of the land. So that's a 6.1 meter townhouse dwelling. We're not proposing to amend any of the existing standards for the zoning. So the height would be exactly the same as what the town's current zoning bylaw would require at 11 meters. And what we have also done as well in conjunction with our urban design consulting team is to make sure that we use shorter blocks so that you've got more side yards to break up the potential massing along that edge. So the longest block we have is a 6-unit block, and the balance of them are 4-unit blocks. So in terms of the materials that were submitted as part of our application, you see there's a few items there. Most of these are updates effectively to the materials that were required as part of our original submission. So they've been updated to obviously reflect the change that we are seeking and that are formed part of the public meeting this evening. So with that, Your Worship, it's a very short presentation just to sort of outline the basics of what we're seeking, and certainly happy to answer any questions either members of the public or members of council might have with respect to our applications.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Questions from members of council, please. Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to refresh my memory, those 9 single detached dwellings were in essence a buffer to that original project. I believe the residents on Church had a hard time swallowing that there was townhouses going behind them, but the one thing they were hanging on to is that there was a buffer there of a single detached dwelling to backing onto a single detached dwelling. I believe, is that not our standards? Do we not try to do those types of things when we have these projects come about?
Ms. Morris?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we do have policies in the official plan that speak to transition and compatibility and maintaining similar lot sizes to existing residential lots. So staff will be reviewing the application in that regard, and we are definitely considering that.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Councillor Drodge? Okay, thank you. Councillor Waters?
Along the same lines, I feel like it's a bit of bait and switch here in terms of promising us one thing and then asking for something a year down the road. So I'm asking, what's the benefit to the community by trying to get rid of the compatibility issue between the existing community and the new subdivision? That was one of, like says, what Councillor Drodge had mentioned. This was one piece that the community was looking upon, and now you want to switch it. What prompted this? I can't imagine that the provincial policy is this specific in terms of what you need to do.
So through you, Your Worship, Councillor Waters, so thank you for your question. So a few things, obviously, market has changed significantly. So to propose a 20-meter single detached dwelling in the market today is impossible. They won't move. Certainly townhouses, which are a much more affordable housing product that are available these days, and they certainly would have an opportunity to move. It doesn't do council or the public any good to have vacant lots sitting there for who knows how long. So as part of the new provincial planning statement, and which was also referred to in the old PPS, we want to efficiently use land and infrastructure, and this is certainly one way of doing that. And in our opinion, we do townhouses next to single detached dwellings all over the place. So we appreciate the concern, but I think they also need to look at is using existing and proposed infrastructure wisely. And as well, your official plan is up for review, and perhaps that's a policy that may no longer be valid, frankly, in today's context.
Councillor Waters?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you that single detached housing are on their way out. I still think in this community there's still lots of demand for them, and many of the other developers are still building them today. This seems to go against the policy that we have in terms of compatibility, and quite honestly, I just think it's a money grab from the developer, to be quite honest with you, and I certainly won't be voting for it when it comes forward to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Fowler?
Thank you, Worship. Got a trifecta here. To alter this is to take the people that have already invested in our town and do something of this nature. I think it doesn't look good overall. I agree with the fact that, looking at 4 properties in my backyard, I would not be pleased in the least, especially when the planning is stated as it is. To say houses aren't moving, no. I'm sorry, I will strongly disagree with that comment. I have, on my street alone, houses flip constantly, and people are selling and they are moving in just as quickly. So in this scenario, no, I disagree. The fact that it's to jam that little extra in, it doesn't fit. It doesn't work with the community. It doesn't look good on the company, and on top of that, it just doesn't look right at all. The other question I do have is for the town. At this moment in time, on the official plan, Schedule A, there is a road on the west side that is going in, McMaster Road. It is going in behind the Catholic school, I believe, that's being built currently, and going out to 20 Side Road. My question is this road going to be built before the subdivision, during the subdivision, and who is responsible for the road to the subdivision through it?
Not really part of the application this evening, but Mr. Montgomery, if you have the answer, that would be helpful.
Through your worship, the McMaster Avenue was part of the secondary plan, the Lefroy secondary plan that was approved by the Intermunicipal Board in 2007. There's a subdivision called Elsemi P4, and the collector road goes through that subdivision. That subdivision will be back for an additional public meeting, further review with the changes with respect to the school that's going in. But the draft plan conditions for this existing subdivision, Hoffland, require this developer to build a portion of that road to the southern extent of the subject lands to allow access.
If I may, Your Worship, the reason I ask is, one, it is on the pages of the report, so it is technically part of the report, and as well, when it comes down to it, when you have one road into a set of homes with townhomes and you limit the access and egress, we're talking again, once again, it comes back up. We're talking about waste management. We're talking about emergency vehicles. We're talking about in case there's an accident in the road and the road out to the 20th is not built, that creates a choke point. So this is, even though it's not a part of the subdivision, I need to know how it plays into the subdivision, the timing of the subdivision, because it directly affects the residents who live in the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Constantine.
My question is, if we do not approve the townhouses, would you still go ahead and build those single homes, or you would not build any at all?
I'm not in a position to answer that question, Councillor Constantine. I don't know. I'd have to confer with my client.
Any other questions or comments? So I had a question, if I could, please, to Ms. Morris about official plan policy 10.2.14. So you say that to site specific, so that's only for this particular subdivision, but we do transition zoning in other subdivisions and have in the past?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And similar to my colleagues, I understand that the planning regime has changed over the last while. I understand, housing targets, affordable housing, the new PPS, and all of the work that all of the changes that the province has put in. Having said that, I still believe that existing residents deserve some kind of transition from like rural estate residential to a density of 27.3 per hectare. So I'm seeing no other comments, but I think, sorry, Councillor Waters.
One other question I have for staff. They're also asking for an exemption from the secondary unit, the 25%. So would they have met that with the 9 single detached? Would that allow them to meet that requirement there, or is this? I guess that's my question. Would they, if they had maintained the existing 9s, would that allow them to meet the minimum 25 unit for secondary units?
Through Mayor Dolan, I believe I would have to review that to see if the 25% requirement could be met, so I can take that back and come back with a response on that in the recommendation report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments then, thank you, Mr. McKinnon, for your presentation. We'll hear from members of the public who have questions regarding this item. Has anyone registered to speak virtually, Ms. Toma?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, we do not have any virtual speakers this evening.
Okay, so I would ask anybody interested to please come forward and have your initial 5 minutes, and please state your name for the record. Welcome.
Welcome, Madam Council, or Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. One question I'd like to clarify before I
just your name for the record,
okay,
Mr. Munshaw.
George Munshaw. So I did a deposition on this the first time around. I asked town to get back to me with the results. Never happened. This is the first I knew that was passed. The first time. I find that really, really hard to swallow. Because I did make the deposition. It was by Skype at the time because it was COVID. And the town assured me at that time they would get back to me with the results. And it didn't happen. That is really, really hard to swallow.
Thanks, Mr. Munshaw. I can't speak to what happened at that time, but you did hear in my preamble, and I read the same preamble every time we have a public planning meeting.
I get it, but it didn't happen.
But there's a piece in there that says that where you go to sign up to get on that list. And did you do that?
Because it was COVID, when we did it from Skype, it was told to me at that time that the town would give me a response. And I just find it hard.
I understand that that is frustrating, but you have signed up here
No, of course I
tonight,
did.
and
This
you-
is not my first rodeo with the
Right.
town.
So you
okay?
will, this time, you will be notified when this comes back to this council for a decision.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, my name is George Munshaw. I live at 1399 Clarny Beach Road for the last 60 years. So this development is in my backyard. I'm not against development, nor am I against families. Let me get my glasses here. We all think we don't need them. I'm not against development, nor am I against families wanting to move into our town. Why wouldn't they? Innisfil is a beautiful area, clean, wide open, the lake, good people who care about their homes, their schools, their churches, volunteers running sports team and various activities throughout the township. What I'm concerned about is most subdivisions have been fairly well laid out throughout the town. But now we get into infilling smaller plots of land within the parameters of our villages, especially Lefroy. This takes a bigger task and responsibility of town planners and council, as this is what changes the complexity of our villages. And what I see with this developer is a person that wants the most and even more out of out of this development. Be damned about what we have made our village as property owners. I think 81 townhouses on this plot of land is not medium density development, but high density development. I think the planning department and council should look at this application and give thought to having the developer look at making all the lots that are backing onto existing homes conform to those property standards, especially along Church Street and Clarny Beach Road. They should reflect the size of the lots and be detached homes. I believe that a lot of these so-called affordable homes will not be that, but will be bought up by investors and made into multifamily dwellings, be rented out, which will not only put pressure on surrounding homeowners with traffic and daily life, but also on the town's services, schools, and police. This plot of land is designated as residential low density for that reason. That is what we are in. The village of Lefroy, and have been for generations. So I hope the town's planning department and council realize this. I get that people need homes, and they have as much right as I do to make Lefroy home. And love it as much as we do. But do not let infilling be overly dense as to make what you make a subdivision layout be. Well-planned and long-term goals. I believe this plan is on the plot of land is way out of line on what most people want, and I hope you take my concerns seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munshaw. We will look into what happened in 2020 at the last time and why you didn't receive notice.
Thanks.
Please come forward and state your name for the record.
Hi there, my name's Shannon Casper. I live at 1414 Clarny Beach Road. I very much tonight was not expecting your comments, and I appreciate them very much because it is exactly how we feel. We were promised that buffer of single homes along that ridge, and now that it's kind of being taken back, it feels very negative. Even just the school going in has already caused quite a bit of extra light in the area. That's just the school alone. We're not talking about a few extra houses. We're talking about, we went from 9 to 81. We're not talking about 9 to 81 homes. We're talking about 9 families to 81 families. We're not talking about 9 people to 81 people. We're talking about 9 families to 81 families. We're talking about increased lights. We're talking about increased noise. We're talking about increased traffic. Our current schools that were built there were already built on your current plans that you already presented, and now you're trying to change them. Where are we coming up with school class sizes for 81 more families' children? You mentioned that you don't feel like single homes are being sold very quickly. Lormel Gate, all of those homes are single detached homes. They sell quickly. Angus Street, sorry, I'm a visiting nurse in the area, so I drive around a lot. I see how quickly these houses are going up for sale and then being sold. Angus Street, Webster has single homes that are still being flipped very, very quickly. All of these areas are single unit homes, detached homes that are selling quickly. Families are moving into them. We appreciate it. We love having families in our area for this area to grow, but we don't want it to grow that quickly from 9 homes that we were promised to 81 families. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Casper. Anyone else? Please come forward. Thank you, sir. Name for the record, please.
My name's Brody Rivers. I live at 1420 Killarney Beach Road. I wasn't planning on coming to talk today. I do thank you guys for your kind, obviously, comments about, I guess, just the basic. So I guess I moved to Killarney. I moved to Lefroy about 1.5 years ago. I moved to Lefroy for, I guess, kind of the purpose of having a house, having property, having privacy, having community, having people to share with, having diversity. So this new development coming in, I get it, 9 houses. What's the dollar value to sell 25? It's appealing. It's appealing to people who profit from that. But you're looking at people along Church Street, beautiful street to watch, beautiful neighborhood, beautiful people. Those people's properties are gonna go down in value. I know you might not think of it, and it might be something small. That's a huge thing. That person has put their life into that property. They moved here the same reason I moved here, to make a house, to have a backyard that your kids can share, not to have 4, 6, 81 townhouses stare into your yard. I think that's pretty extreme. Should be kind of handled. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Anyone else? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Marie Welsman-Begeman. I live on 1398 Killarney Beach Road. I moved into our village in 1987, and I've watched a lot of things happen. It's a close community. It was a natural community. We could swim in the lake. We could go for walks. We could look at stars. We cannot look at stars anymore. The lake is filthy at the end of our road. The traffic is horrendous, and the noise is off the charts. 9 homes is 9 homes, as our neighbor said, 9 families. Now we're looking into suburbia, where this is supposed to be a rural area, and I find it just terrifying. And I do appreciate the thoughts that the councillors have already spoken, and I do hope that you will continue to take this into account, because money is money, but life is life, and the quality of life for the families that have been living in this community is very important. And so the people that are coming in also deserve that quality of life, and they will not get that at this degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Did you get Marie's last name? Because I didn't. Ms. Toma? Okay, thank you. Next, who is ever ready, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Hammer. I'm 1404 Killarney Beach Road. I've been there for almost 35 years. We moved away from Toronto precisely to be in a nice housing area where everyone has a nice quiet time. Unfortunately, the traffic situation has already gotten out of hand. With townhouses as it is, there's no bus services. The Uber situation doesn't exist in Lefroy. I've never been able to get an Uber under a semi-emergency situation to go to appointment or otherwise. We have cars. However, everyone that's going to be in this townhouse area will have to have a minimum of a car or 2 or more, simply because of husband and wife working, families starting out, needing to get around. All of the councillors the councillors have already voiced exactly these points, which I was thrilled to hear. I wasn't going to speak, but I just thought I'd repeat what has been said. We enjoy the quiet backyard overlooking the park, which is now a dog park. We look at the Bell telephone office, which is ugly but quiet, generally speaking. However, there are times where Hoffland is full of Bell telephone trucks and their parking lot and their areas. Hoffland is regularly used as a parking area for parties. When there's a single house party, the entire Killarney Beach Road is filled with cars and Hoffland. That's just one family having a party. If this is now extended to 81 family residences, that will stretch everywhere. Everyone I've spoken to has had nearly an accident trying to back out of their driveway on Killarney Beach Road simply because the people that are driving down it completely ignore the speed limit. They don't stop, they just fly right through. Even the snow plows in the wintertime, in the mornings and late evenings when they think no one's looking, fly through and throw the snow 25 feet from the road over the boulevard, which is 12 feet, and 3 feet of sidewalk into 10 feet into the yards. That's just an illustration of the traffic that's there now. You can also go through nice quiet periods. In the summertime, we like to wave at everyone going home on Sunday nights, and it can be quite nice during the week and quiet. However, if you have another 81 dwellings with multiple cars, there's going to be congestion, there is going to be issues, and as I said, there's no bus, there's no alternative infrastructure for young families. That's who are going to want to move into townhouses, people starting out who are looking to get a foothold at having a property. Also, they're going to be young families that don't have the money necessarily to cover all the costs, so they might have a friend come in and move in with them. So they share a townhouse. That simply adds cars. That's the biggest concern I have, as well as, of course, the buffer zones, which is what we had assumed 9 houses was a brilliant plan, as far as I could see. That was my comment anyway, just simply the congestion issue, not mentioning garbage trucks, and I watch it all go by. I work from my home. So for 35 years, I've watched the road change. And so anyway, that's my point for today, and I appreciate the appearance and, let me try this again. I appreciate the thorough looking into this by the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hammer. Next, please. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Mary Hammer. I live on Killarney Beach Road. 1404 is our address. We used to be 319. We've been there for a while. We were there when it was general delivery. We had a post office box. Now our post office box is 4 digits. We're in the big times now. I know we need development in our community. I know we need homes, but I'm concerned at all of a sudden we see something, it goes from 9 to 81, and we need to plan very carefully to make sure we've got the services for the families coming in, because we're making the assumption that it's going to be families, young families in townhomes, some families, single-family homes. I've seen a small townhouse development nearby, driving to the meeting tonight and seeing how little parking they have with that small development. And I'm hoping that when we do develop with townhouses, that we will have enough parking for the folks, because we don't have the buses and we don't really have Uber in this area to be able to help us get transported to where we need to go. We can't walk everywhere. It's far. It's 3 kilometers to Yonge Street, and believe me, in the wintertime, it's a horrible way to have to get to Yonge Street. I've done it many times. main thing I wanted to bring up today is that we're wanting development in our town. It's a positive thing. We want more people to enjoy this town. It's a great town to live in. We have some quirks, every town does, but we want to go forward with positive for the folks coming in. We want them to be able to move in and be positive, not be anxious about having to sort out things in our town. Those are the things that are on my mind as these developments are coming. I'm worried that it's too big for that spot because we don't have the roads for it. We don't have the buses for them. How are people going to get around? They have to be able to get to where they need to go. And I'm not convinced that the way it's sorted out right now that we'll be able to help our constituents. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Hammer. I just want to make a quick comment to Mr. Correa about the Uber discussion, because the GO trains or the GO bus stops on Yonge Street are a hub, if I'm not mistaken. So you should be able to get there by Uber for, I think it's $4 or $5. So we'll look into that if it might be just an issue with availability. But we just had Uber up here last week, and they were telling us they had a 95% fill rate. But if you could just wait, Mr. Hammer, till everybody's had the opportunity, and we can talk about that offline. And Ms. Morris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did just want to clarify on the units. So there are 56 townhouse units that are currently draft approved, and this application is requesting to add 25 to that. So it's not going from 9 to 81, just to make that clear for everyone to have an understanding.
Thank you for that. So just to be clear then, the application was to convert the 9 single detached homes to 25 townhomes. Is that correct? And then the 56 is the other amount. So if you add those together, that comes up with 81. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. All right. Other comments, questions? Please come forward. And I'll ask again, is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Is there anyone who has spoken who would like to speak a second time? Mr. Hammer?
Just in reiterating about the Uber situation, I'm not sure if it was actually directly related to the Killarney Beach Road. Every time we've tried, I've tried morning, noon, and night. I did it over a period of a week, and I could never get a confirmation for that area. My comment was also the alternative is a taxi, which can take a half an hour to 40 minutes. If you're not in a hurry, that's great. If there was a semi-emergency situation needing to get to a doctor's office or whatever, they'd have to use that. The mail situation and the address situation has been continually changing along the Killarney Beach Road, to the point where, at least in our case, we would frequently go through months where no mail would be delivered. The address has changed between a street address and then a street address with a P.O. box, and then if you did that, you wouldn't get your mail again. So we switched to then just a P.O. box with no address. Then the mail started coming again. Then we were notified that the P.O. box has changed, but it wasn't an issue. For a year, they would still be delivering delivering your mail. That stopped the mail again. I haven't had any of my bills for 4 months now. Using the proper address with the proper email. The reason I bring that up is because on most of the websites, on major institutions now, they're incapable of letting us add a P.O. box. They look at the address in Lefroy and say that P.O. box does not exist. Or they will say, if you do the P.O. box, there is no street that exists, which may be what is causing problem with the Uber situation.
Thank you, Mr. You know, both of those items, although not directly related to the application.
It was to do with the number of people in the area. That's
Yeah,
all
and
I was saying.
they can be fixed. We can fix those through our customer service inquiry, regardless of this application. We can fix the Uber thing, and we can fix we've heard about Canada Post issues in Lefroy, and we understood that it was fixed now, but obviously not.
That was the question you were asking, which is why I came back up.
Right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Madam Clerk, did we have anybody who sent any comments in online?
Thank you, Worship. No, no comments have been received this evening.
Thank you. We'll now go to the recommendation to receive the comments provided this evening. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Richardson and Councillor Waters. All those in favor of receiving the comments, thank you. Now, this is the important part. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this item by council, but comes back to council for debate and decision. So please contact the clerk's office at clerksoffice@innisfil.ca. Now, Madam Clerk, if they signed the sheet out front there, do they still have to contact the clerk's office?
Thank you, Worship. No, they do not. We will be providing that information to planning, and the clerk's office will also have it on a tracker. And when this item comes back for consideration at council, any person that has signed up will be notified in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. And make sure if your email address is clear, so you will get that email. And also, if you have any neighbors that were not able to come tonight, please let them know that they can still comment on this application by emailing clerksoffice@innisfil.ca. So council thanks everyone for their participation, and we'll now go to the confirming bylaw and adjournment. So could I please ask for a mover and a seconder for confirming bylaw and to adjourn at 7:41 p.m. Councillor Zanella and Councillor Drodge. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of the evening. Thank you.